I, 28F, don't want his 30M parents to live with us for 6 months after we have a baby. I recently got engaged to my boyfriend of 2 years. We've talked a lot about our families and our goals and hopes and dreams. But with the engagement, we're starting to really discuss the details. He's Middle Eastern, and in his culture, it's common for the parents to come live with you for 6 months after you have a baby. I come from the Northeast of America, where we value privacy and space. It feels like my worst nightmare to have his parent come stay with us, especially during such a stressful time. His parents are lovely and the issue isn't getting along with them. It's literally just not wanting to have long-term house guests who may have their own opinions about raising the baby and trying to balance that with a newborn. His sister came to live with us for a month this year, and that was difficult for me despite her being very sweet because we have a small apartment and there was just no privacy. He's suggested compromises such as only having his mother come or a shorter time period than 6 months. He's also said that having her there will help because she can take care of the baby and we can get back to work and have mental space to function rather than being overwhelmed. Which seems like a fair point, but I still have anxiety when I think about it. We're trying to talk through a lot of concerns we have before the marriage, but this issue is particularly difficult. TLDR, I have anxiety about having his mom come live with us after I have a baby. Darn, I would too. The idea of in-laws drives me crazy even though they are very sweet people. I have told my boyfriend, and, in turn, his family of my social anxiety. They are now very understanding if I don't show up for certain family gatherings. You need to tell him how much it is haunting you. That the idea of having his parents staying with you paralyzes you with fear. He is minimizing the problem. It is time to be honest with him. Stop being the nice, cool girl. This sounds like it's attached to a whole bunch of other stuff around cultural values. I think you need to do some premarital counseling. New mothers can have a range of emotions when they have their first baby. If you're planning to breastfeed, then you can't really farm out on the baby care to your mother-in-law. And even if you're not breastfeeding, you may want that time to bond with a new baby. Having extra people around to help with domestic things can be useful at this point. Or it can be annoying and difficult. It doesn't sound like long-term guests work really well in your current living space. Besides the crowding and privacy issues, will they really help? After my daughter had my grandson, in-laws came to visit to help out, and basically she had 2 more people to take care of, as well as the baby. I have a similar intercultural marriage, and when I was pregnant we lived in a very small 2BR apartment and the exact same issue came up. I love my in-laws, and Mill in particular would have cleaned my house and cooked our meals and absolutely been a tremendous help. But I knew that I would feel smothered and irritated and have no privacy if she were to come stay. Becoming parents for the first time is very special, and it only happens once. It's a time when you and your husband will not only be bonding with the baby, but also reconfiguring your relationship to one another. There will now be 3 of you, where before there were only 2. My advice is to be sensitive to where he's coming from on this, but to not back down on your position. If you change your mind and come to feel differently, that's perfectly fine, but please don't let yourself be swayed by guilt, rather than the compromise of just Mill coming. What about one where the visit is postponed until baby is 3 to 4 months old? And it's also okay to just say that you're not able to commit to anything at this time. Last thing I wanted when I had a baby was long-term house guests. Why can't they stay elsewhere? A long-term seasonal rental or a short-term lease somewhere? Even hotels will give better rates for long-term stays, like extended stay, etc. This might sound crazy, and it's certainly subjective, But by far the easiest time I even had raising my child was between 0 to 12 months. They can't move, they don't talk, they just eat, sleep and need to be cuddled, changed and bathed. That's literally it. Your fiancé seems to be anticipating this hugely stressful time, and really, right now, you have no idea if you guys will even need the help. It's time for compromise, I think. This is above Reddit's pay grade, but a good premarital counselor with experience of intercultural relationships will definitely be able to help you navigate this conversation. I agree with you, Bella Clogger. There are bound to be other stumbling blocks, and if you can figure out a productive and understanding way to approach them together now, they don't need to become deal breakers. Besides the usual default answer of both people need to be on board for overnight visitors, let alone 6 months, either can veto. You'll be the one who has just pushed a person out of you, enforcing a stressful, anxious 6 months of taking away your privacy and autonomy in a small apartment while double and a halving its occupancy. Sounds awful, but even more ridiculous when the justification is that it's to help you. His cultural things won't always be yours. This is one of them that isn't. But he's not the center of this event. You are. My in-laws lived with us for 4 years after my daughter was born. They are Asian. We're getting a divorce. When my older son was born, my mother-in-law came immediately for 2 weeks to help. She did nothing for me or the baby, and when I was on bed rest because of hemorrhaging, she came in to ask when I was going to get up to fix dinner. My mom, who lived locally, did not come help while she was here because she wanted to let my in-law have a special bonding time and thought she was helping. When I was pregnant with son number 2, mother-in-law announced she was coming for the first 2 weeks. I told my husband, absolutely not. He told me that he couldn't tell her she could come. So, I got out highest limit credit card, called the best hotel in Houston, Ritz-Carlton back then, and made reservations to stay there for 2 weeks with the option of staying longer. I also told them I might be arriving a day or so earlier. And would that be a problem? No. My husband stared at me in shock. I had just guaranteed payment for a room that would max our card, empty our savings, etc. I told him, if you cannot tell your mom no, then you and toddler C can entertain her while she is here. Baby Jayan will be at the Ritz availing ourselves of room service and daily maid service. I intend to tip well. When he finally realized I was completely serious, he called his mom and told her she had to wait to come until we let her know we could manage guests. Crazy desperation has its uses. Sounds like you need to have a discussion about boundaries in general. I personally know scenarios where having the in-laws over to help has been absolutely welcomed in. The new parents appreciated all the help they could get. Don't underestimate how hard having a baby can be. But really, this is a discussion about boundaries. Your concerns about space and values in terms of raising the baby are valid. What does he think? If, for example, you wanted to do things one way, and his mother another, would he back you up? For me, those are the questions you really need to answer. Also, will your living situation be the same by the time a baby arrives? If space is a concern, you can easily make that a condition before you start trying for a baby. Have a bigger house, if possible. Personally, my compromise here would be something like have her come initially for a short period of time, 1 to 2 weeks. Set some ground rules that are important to you. And if that goes okay, invite her back again for a longer period of time. Y'all need to discuss some other cultural differences before you get married while you're at it. This can't be the only one you'll disagree on. I'd go nuts. Put your foot down and tell him that is absolutely not happening in this small apartment. You need time to bond and connect to your baby. Not have an older adult try to fight you to hold your kid. Tell him she can visit for a few hours to help clean. But moving in isn't happening. That would be a deal breaker for me. Are you pregnant? If not, I would seriously reconsider this. Having your in-laws move in when you have a baby is not a good idea. What if they push you around and want to do things you don't want with the baby? There's no way he's gonna stick up for you because he's already telling you how it's gonna be. Nope. I think he's making this up. Double check with female Middle Eastern friends or look for a subreddit. Do not have his parents come. He is already putting her once above your needs. Ask him how it's helpful to have a strange woman to you. Take care of your physical body. Would you like your dad to come over and help him bathe after a surgery? Why does he want his mom to see your breasts? There is often an expectation that the daughter-in-law will take care of his parents. Not that they will take care of her and her baby. The guy's mom will cook his favorite foods, not yours. And if his mom has different baby advice than the doctor's, will he listen to you and the doctors or his mom? It sounds like he'll listen to his mom. In India, the pregnant woman's mom, and maybe dad, comes and helps her with a newborn for 6 months. Not the husband's parents. Or the wife goes home and lives in her mom's house for the first 6 months. If he feels so strongly, then you move back to your parents' house, and he can have his parents come stay with him. Please see a therapist alone to ensure you know what you want, and not get overrun by your husband and his family. Good Lord, that would be fucking awful. No, and no again. You need to establish boundaries you are comfortable with before this relationship goes any further. My wife's brother moved in 5 months ago after graduating college to search for jobs in our area. We have a 1-month-old. Her mom was down for 2 weeks after the birth. They are all extremely helpful and nice people. Aside from politics, I have no complaints, and we all agreed basically never to bring up politics. I'm regretting not setting some time limit. I basically melted down while her mom was here. We live in a small house and my work is all remote for the year, so she was sleeping in my office. As great as it is to have help, I would definitely recommend setting some boundaries and much shorter stay. Maybe a few weeks at your house, then a longer stay at a hotel or Airbnb, or they could visit other family friends for a couple weeks, then come back to your place. All the normal difficulties with birth and in-laws is a lot. Throw quarantine and politics on top, and it's a shit show of emotions. My ex-wife's parents did this when our daughter was born. They are Swedish, but I don't think it's a cultural thing. Just what they wanted to do. It was absolutely terrible and made me feel like I was robbed of the experience of having a newborn baby. I never got to hold my daughter until I finally snapped on the millionth time my former mill swooped in the room to take her from me. It was ridiculous. I guess if the relationship is in good shape and there is good communication, it could work out well. Maybe, but we did not have a good relationship or any communication at all. My ex-wife and her mother made what should have been a wonderful experience actually pretty depressing. He is Middle Eastern. GG. I lived in Dubai for 5 years. If your guy is the family-oriented guy, he wins. Because choosing you over his parents is a dark path for both of you.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.